Welcome to Numbers and Narratives, hosted by Ezra Kay and Owen Terry. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Numbers and Narratives. Today we got Theo Harris on the show. How are you, Theo?
Yeah, really good. Enjoying pre-season. I'm a Tottenham fan, so it's been nice to get a few games in. So
Yeah, they've not been too active in the window, but better than Liverpool. So
Well, there's rumours today that we're after people, so that's a little bit more exciting than yesterday.
So yeah, today we're going to kind of continue the next set of teams we're talking about, previewing the season. Premier League is only 2 weeks away, I think, now.
Yeah.
It's getting close. Excited?
yeah, fully.
I'm so
I've
ready
been
for
missing it massively. So yeah, literally a week and a half. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. Before we get into the Premier League preview, I want to quickly mention the Matildas. They bowed out of the Olympics, losing their third and final match against the United States by 2-1. Apparently, it was their first group stage exit since the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney.
That's a good effort.
So yeah,
Considering it's like automatic quarters after the group stage.
yeah. And their manager, Tony Gustafsson, resigned as well. I think it was a resignation, not a sacking, right? It was like a
I
mutual...
think it wasn't renewed.
Oh, it wasn't renewed.
So it just ran out.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, a week ago on the podcast, we said, what did we say? We said that they were conceding too many goals from set pieces. They conceded another set piece goal. We said that they were turning the ball over in their own half too much. They turned the ball over in their own half and then conceded a goal. And we said they weren't having enough of the ball because they only had two in midfield, and United States had 72% possession. So
On the money.
Yeah, we kind of nailed it.
yeah, so Tillies, if you're looking for a head coach.
Owen Terry's in the house. Yeah.
We mentioned Trinity Rodman as well. She had the crazy hair.
Yeah.
She scored.
Yeah.
So
We basically covered everything.
yeah, but I think we released it the day after the game, so
Yeah.
everyone thinks we're liars.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
But
Well, that was my fault. I had some technical issues. My other laptop was having a meltdown. I could not edit it to save my life, but
it happens.
it happens. Yeah. You have to trust us that we did actually.
Yeah, I get you to do everything else. So.
All right, let's kick off our Premier League.
Oh, what happened to my
previews.
dumb or not?
Oh shit! Oh, we were just talking about how I'm not allowed to swear on the podcast as well. So got us off the bat with that. Yeah, done or not on. What have you got for us this week?
All right, so I had someone ask me, a friend of mine, Layla, who said she didn't think of the United States as a footballing team, but they're one of the best in the women's.
Mm-hmm.
My dumb or not this week is United States are only good in the women's because they've got money. And what I mean by that, or how I'll explain that, is if we look at the nations that are probably overperforming in the women's compared to the men's for football, you think of the United States, you think of Sweden, Canada, Australia. All of those nations are a lot better in the women's than the men's. All of them have got a high GDP. And then there are some clubs, some nations that are good in both men's and women's, like Spain, Germany, Britain, France, also got pretty good GDPs. Brazil's a little bit of an outlier, I'll admit. But aside from that, all high GDPs. But if you look at the Olympics, all Canada, Sweden, Australia, and United States, all of them have performed a lot better in the women's Olympics than the men's. Whereas for those other nations that I mentioned that were good in both men's and women's for football are also about just as good at the Olympics. But yeah, I think because some nations, there's a lot more accessibility with money for women to play sport, that we see if football nations, some nations that aren't traditionally football nations do really well in the women's just because they have greater access to be able to play the sport. Whereas maybe in some places like Uruguay, Argentina, who are traditionally very good football nations, don't perform as well in the women's side as they do with the men's.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Even talking about like facilities and things like that, the facilities in countries with a high GDP generally are higher. And a lot of those countries women have good access to those facilities as well. So, yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's definitely a not dumb scenario. Yeah.
Well, you've heard it here on this podcast every week. I've never said anything dumb. So.
You're not trying hard enough, clearly, yeah. All right, let's get started into our previews, times 2. Unless you got anything else for us.
No.
All right. I'm going to start with Crystal Palace. I'm kind of excited by them. I was excited by them at the end of last season, particularly, because they were flying, really. They won 6 of their last 7 games. Beat Liverpool, Newcastle. They smashed Man United 4-0. Smashed Aston Villa 5-0. And that's all since Oliver Glasner's come in, and he obviously won the Europa League with Frankfurt. So he's got some pedigree.
I didn't realise he won the Europa League with Frankfurt. That's a very
That's impressive.
He did, didn't he? Or am I making that up?
No, I didn't know he managed Frankfurt.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he came from Frankfurt.
Yeah,
and that was one of the first years where they made the Europa League a bit more competitive because they restructured it a bit. So there was, I think I remember West Ham had to knock out like someone stupid like Barca. It wasn't maybe it was Barca. They beat someone crazy good. It was a tougher Europa League season, that one.
I do remember that one. Obviously, the 3 key players for them at the end of last season, Eze, Elise, and Mateta, were like in really good form. They've lost Elise to Bayern Munich. I saw they have brought in Ismail Sarr.
Yeah.
He used to play for Watford.
Who played for Watford, yeah. I wonder if he can like fill that hole left by Elise.
It's a big hole to
yeah.
fill.
Yeah, I mean, Elise is one of the best players in the world. Ismail Sarr kind of underwhelmed when Watford bought him the first time. No, that's not to say that he's a bad signing.
He was young then.
He was young then.
Years ago.
But I don't think we're going to see him jump leaps and bounds, so he's going to be as good as what Elise was for Crystal Palace. And the crucial thing was with Crystal Palace last season was when Elise and Eze were playing, their win rate went up to like 80%, whereas without them it was pretty much the inverse. It was like 20%.
Yeah.
Mateta, as you mentioned, he had a really good season towards the back end. I saw a Premier League post actually saying, he's scored this many goals to end the season. I think it was 10 and 13 games or something. It's like including a memorable hat trick on the last day of the season. They did not show one of his goals
on Goal Rush.
On Goal Rush the last day of the season, so it wasn't memorable.
I don't remember it. I didn't know what happened.
Who was it against?
Couldn't tell you. Aston Villa was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was shooting 30%. He was converting 30% of his shots towards the end of the season, which is ridiculously insane. Like Nunez is about 8% for reference. But he did perform. He's performing really well in the Olympics. I don't know if you guys have seen that. He's got like 4 or 5 goals in his like 4 games.
Continue that.
So maybe it's not a fluke, but to me it seems a bit like a fluke.
For the Olympics, will he come straight back into the Crystal Palace side, do you think, or will he have a few weeks off?
It's a good question. I don't think they'll give him a couple of weeks off. I think they'll just throw him in the deep end. If he asks for it, then they might give it to him. But I think that they'll just hope
He'd probably want to play. He'd want to continue that form, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they're not playing as much football, Crystal Palace players. And Mateta hasn't been playing at the Euros, so it's just like,
Yeah, Eze's been an interesting one. Like, I don't know if he's going to stay or not. I think Spurs have been linked with him, but I don't know whether they're actually going to bid for him.
We have, yeah. The longer it's left, the more I think he's going to stay, to be honest. If Crystal Palace do lose both Eze and Elise in the same window, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge disadvantage for them. And I think they're going to do everything in their power to try and get Eze to stay, I'd imagine. So I'd love him at Tottenham. Can't see him leaving Crystal Palace at this stage, I don't think.
Yeah, what do you think? Can they afford to let him go? Probably not.
I don't think they can afford to let him go. I don't think... Their defence is very good. Their defence has been very good. They were 5th on expected goals against, so average finishing. They would have conceded the 5th least amount of goals, but their goalkeepers weren't very good. Jack Butland and forgot who else filled in. But they underperformed. So in the attacking sense, if they lost Elise, they lose Eze as well, I find it really hard for them to stay up.
Yeah, at least it always kind of looked like Elise was going to leave from the beginning of the window, so they got that done. They got his replacement in. They kind of have their team structure now for the beginning of the season. Losing Eze this late on is not something that we're going to do, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it'd be fully like pulling the rug under Glasner's feet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Undermine all that good work that he did.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Like going into the end of last season, Owen and I were kind of talking maybe next season they could push for like a European spot. That was with Elise. Obviously, they've lost him now. Do you think that's still realistic, or probably maybe what are their expectations, do you think?
I think top half for Crystal Palace would be a really good achievement. I think it's something Glasner will be aiming for, I'd imagine. I think that completely changes, depending on who they can keep hold of. But at this stage, even with Elise gone, Sarr replacing him, I think they could go top half. But I don't know if they're quite going to go conference or Europa.
They have never finished above 10th before. And I don't think they will again. Their set pieces are a bit of a problem defending, especially. In attacking sense especially. They don't really have those targets. Gahey and Anderson, very good centre backs, not as much threats in the air. And I don't see how they're going to get much better at that. I mean, the only thing about them losing Elise is Elise missed a lot of the season anyway. Yeah. So some might have more consistency, so it might not be that big of a loss. But yeah, I think they're probably going to be, without Elise, they're probably going to be closer to the relegation zone, especially if Eze leaves. I don't expect Mateta to be able to keep up this form, so not enough goals for me. Midfield's too weak. Anna Morton's the only one that they've got that I rate.
So you're thinking bottom half?
I'm thinking bottom half.
Yeah, all right. I'm the only one who's optimistic. I kind of think now they've lost Elise, European spots are probably a little bit unrealistic. But yeah, I'm kind of similar boat with you there, like top half, maybe pushing the Conference League.
They played so well towards the end of last season. I just hope they can finish that form. It's great to see good football teams in the Premier League. So
yeah. Moving on to a team which doesn't play very good football, Everton. They ended up kind of managing to avoid relegation fairly comfortably, despite the points deductions. They've lost Onana, which is a pretty big miss. How do we think they're going to go this season?
Probably about the same. They were unexpected numbers. They were really unlucky because Calvert-Lewin and Beto were really bad at shooting up front. I think I saw Beto had a quote saying, I can't promise you goals, but I can promise you hard work, which is fair enough, but he has not come through with the goals. I think...
That's not what you want to hear your strikers
say. I think St. Maximum said a similar thing, but he's a bit more exciting to watch than Beto. But you know what I find really interesting about Everton?
What's that?
So with Arsenal, they're the best set-piece team. They pretty much play for set pieces. Dwight McNeil's kind of crucial to that, winning fouls. And then Beto and Calvert-Lewin, they just pray they scored the set-piece. They scored the second most set-piece goals. Don't have a set-piece coach.
Yeah, right.
No set-piece coach. They're just tall.
It's just Dyche ball.
It is Dyche.
He's the set-piece coach.
But no, that's big. I think we spoke about that a little bit last podcast. But
yeah,
I think they're going to miss him. He's probably one of the most talented they've got, besides Braithwaite. Yeah. No,
I think they'll probably avoid relegation.
I think so. Yeah, I can't see them going down. I think Dyche he's good at that. They're going to be comfortably up, I'd imagine. I can see them being in another relegation battle, but I can't see them going down.
I do wonder if teams look into what they're doing with set pieces, like how they do it without a set piece coach. Because
I think we had, even for Tottenham, I think it was Mile Jedinak and Ryan Mason were doing our set pieces last season, which is a bit random. They're not set piece coaches, and we weren't great at set pieces. But
we'll get into that.
Yeah, there are
we'll get into that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah,
you can count on me bringing up set pieces.
It's Owen's favourite subject at the moment. Yeah. Set pieces of every team. All right, let's talk about Fulham then. They were pretty good last season. They played pretty good football under Marco Silva. I like him quite a lot.
League Cup semi.
League
Yeah,
Cup semi.
true.
Yeah. I just remember the game they battered Spurs towards the end of the season. Do you remember that one?
I must have erased it from my memory.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was like 3-0 or 4-0, but they just outplayed us.
Yeah.
They've lost Paulinho to Bayern
Yeah.
Munich. I think it was quite a lot as well. 43
He is.
million pounds.
He's not young either.
No.
So it's good business by Fulham, but he's huge miss for them for sure.
And they brought in Smith Rowe from Arsenal. He was kind of like a fringe player at Arsenal, really.
He wasn't really playing much after he was the star in the documentary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. He'll probably get a lot bigger role to be able to create things there.
I haven't really seen enough of him to actually know whether
I can see him being
he's a
good
good
there.
player.
I think he's a Premier League quality player.
Yeah.
He will add something different to Fulham, I'd imagine. But yeah, whether they can keep up with what they did last season, don't know, especially without Paulinho. But yeah, I really rate Marco Silva as manager as well. So I can imagine that he'd get them together and hopefully build a solid foundation again to keep them up. But
I think they'll be in a battle this season.
Yeah.
I just think there's not enough there to make me go, you've got that trait that will keep you up. Like at least with Everton, we can go, you've got those set pieces. Like Crystal Palace have got a solid defence that gives them a chance. What does Fulham got going for them? Like Leno's been very good at the back for them.
Andreas Pereira.
I've forgotten their
He's
striker's name. Who has?
he's left.
So they don't have Andreas Pereira. So
Where's he gone, sorry?
Flamengo.
There we go.
Who's the Fulham striker who was in good form?
Rodrigo Muniz. I wanted to talk about him.
Yeah.
So he actually went goalless in his first 11 matches.
Right.
Then he got 9 goals in his last 15.
Yeah.
And my new fixation, like along with set pieces, is this thing called on Opta. They've got this like player hub thing, player radar, where you can compare a player's stats and see who's the most statistically similar to them. And Rodrigo Muniz from Fulham was most similar to Olivier Giroud of a few seasons ago, and also Victor Osimhen.
Yeah, okay.
Does that mean Giroud and Osimhen are similar?
Well, it's kind of like a copy of a copy type scenario there.
Yeah.
But there would be, I think it would be because they probably score about the same amount of goals, a similar amount of goals. Osimhen would get more, but then probably the aerials won, and then contribution to defence and chances created probably are fairly similar, even though statistically, even though eye test probably not quite as much.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a flaw to that system, that it is a bit like basic stats. It's not like how they create the chances. It's just the amount of chances created and goals scored, rather than like specifically was it done first touch or whatever.
They also Fulham also signed Sessegnon on a free transfer.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Like I was
Fulham.
kind of sad to see him go, but at the same time, like we had to let him go.
Yeah. He was never gonna make it at Tottenham at this stage, I don't think. I hope he's able to revive his Premier League career. I think that's the biggest thing for him. If he can get minutes for Fulham, that would be really good for him. I don't know if he can, though. Do you know who's starting for Fulham at left back?
Yeah,
big question.
it's Anthony Robinson, who's really good.
Yeah.
He was in my alternate team.
That's
of the
right.
season.
Yeah, of course he was.
I thought he had a really good season, especially offensively, and then a bit like Paulinho, like getting the stats with tackles and interceptions as well.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to see Sessegnon
breaking into
when
the
he was
team as a
first at
starter.
Fulham, didn't he play at left wing?
It was his goals and assists in the championship that
Yeah.
made
He
got like
him
20 goals.
seem
Yeah.
so
He
highly
was.
rated.
I think he played a little bit at left wing back as well, but he was playing further up the pitch than obviously a left back. But yeah, so maybe he will be pushed forward. I'm not 100% certain. But
The main thing for him is just staying fit. Like
yeah, getting game time
Yeah.
is huge for him. If he can get minutes off the bench, things like that, and just get back into some sort of flow, that's all he can ask for.
Yeah, it was good to see him at least get another Premier League club though.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely,
happy
yeah.
for him. All right, let's move on to Hotspur. So because Theo's here, and we wanted to obviously talk about Spurs. So so they're renamed to Hotspurs for alphabetical purposes. So they were 5th last year, missed out on the Champions League with that terrible run towards the end. I think they had 5 losses out of their last 7 games.
Yeah.
It was a tough run of fixtures, though.
It was hard. It was, it was hard, but it was the way they played as well as the results themselves. So,
do we think they've done enough in the transfer window so far? We've got Archie Gray for 35 million, 18-year-old from Leeds, who's like a
probably more for the future.
Yeah, he's more. You would think so, maybe. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
And then also Bergvall, who's also a midfielder, £8 million from Djurgården. We beat Barcelona signing him. He was technically a January signing, but he's arrived now. And then the other one is also for the future. He's not arriving till the next January window, I think.
January.
Yeah. Youngmin Jack, is that how you pronounce it? Youngmin.
I actually am.
Yeah.
The
Korean.
South Korean.
Yeah. So have we done enough? Like, it seems like we're just signing kids.
At this stage, no. I think there needs to be more business done for Tottenham if they want to kind of build on what they did last season. They are still going to make signings in the window. I think they want 2 more attackers, 2 more attackers vying for starting positions before they get into next season, or just after they start. Sorry. So at this stage, I would not say they've done enough. By the end of the window, potentially they may have.
I would say though, no one spent that much money yet.
That's true.
Across the Premier League, we spoke about that a bit last week, but no one's been spending that much. So I don't think that's a huge concern because no one's left either.
I suppose
last window you lost Harry Kane, big loss.
Yeah.
I suppose the rival team for the Champions League is Villa at the moment, and they've definitely spent more than Spurs have.
Yeah, Chelsea spent quite a bit as well.
I think there is quite a few teams that we're competing for that. Champions. I don't think Liverpool are a lock either, which we'll get into later. So, I think it'll be very competitive for top 4.
The big news, which kind of came out last night, was that Spurs were seriously interested in Solanke from Bournemouth. He had a pretty good year last year, 19 goals and 3 assists, playing for Bournemouth. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
He played for 3 top 6 clubs, just like Daniel Sturridge.
I guess kind of both of you are perfect to talk about this because Owen knows about Solanke as well. But firstly, Theo, what do you think about that signing? Do you reckon he'd fit the system?
Yeah, I think he would. I think he's very much kind of like that Ange Postecoglou striker we kind of talked about at the beginning of last season before he whether Richarlison could fit that role basically. And I think Solanke is a lot more clinical than Richarlison is. He loves getting touches in the box, and I think that's exactly what Ange wants. He's English as well. It's a big thing for Tottenham because there aren't many starting homegrown English players for Tottenham either, which is, I think, part of the reason why we're probably interested in Eze as well. But, yeah, I think he'd work really well under Tottenham, and hopefully it is a deal we can get done.
An upgrade on Richarlison, you think?
I do think so, yeah. I think Richarlison's absolutely shown glimpses that he can do that.
Yeah.
Can he do it on his own for a top 4 club for a full season? Probably not. But then I guess your problem is you have a £60 million striker who's either on the bench or starting Cup/Europa League matches. So, what do you do with that then, I guess?
What do you think about Solanke, Owen?
Well, I'll probably start off with him coming to Liverpool. He was considered a bit of a wonder kid from Chelsea. And I think we paid a bit for him. Not a whole lot, but he looked good in pre-season, and then he just couldn't get going for us. He was very young, and I think because of his physique, he was seen as this plan B that when we're losing, let's sub him on over Firmino and whip crosses to him and see what he can do in the air. And as much as he has a physique for that, I think he's much more than that. And that's why he was so highly rated as a kid, is because he can be played in behind. He's really good at that for Bournemouth, but he's also pretty good he's underrated of the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
I think it's like the Peter Crouch thing that people underappreciate how good he was with his feet because he's so tall and big, and you look at him and you go, oh, that's a
ping a ball
whip it up and see how he goes.
Yeah.
But he offers a lot. So I really like the player that Dominic Solanke has become, and I think Spurs would do very well to get him in. I think he'd make a big difference.
Yeah. We still haven't really replaced Kane since he left 2 seasons ago. So you'd think maybe this is finally that replacement coming in. But I feel a little bit conflicted. I mean, he's 26. He's not like super young, but I know he's probably going into the prime of his career.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a gamble. He's only, he had his breakthrough season last year, really. Before
playing under an attacking manager who likes to press, which also suits Postecoglou.
It does,
I'd say.
I can just fully see like another Soldado moment where like a striker comes in with big expectations and then
because they start with SOL.
Yeah, basically, and just can't get off the ground running. But at the same time, I'm like, who else could we possibly get? There's Tony, who I'm not hugely keen on.
He's older than Solanke.
Because he's older than Solanke, yeah. But yeah, I think. If Son through the middle definitely didn't work last season.
It did not, no.
At all. And Richarlison when he was fit, it was good, but the problem was he wasn't fit.
I guess they use Son down the middle quite a bit because he's good at dribbling in space, but he's probably not someone who really takes people on one-on-one that much. I think that's kind of a problem with Postecoglou's system at the moment. I saw that in the wide areas close to goal, they actually had the ball a little bit more than what City did in those wide areas. And I think that's because Postecoglou sets up the wingers extremely wide to start off. But they're not willing to take on the player. So I think the effectiveness of Postecoglou's strategies throughout the season probably dipped a bit. At the start, Spurs started off really well. Then there was injuries. You can forgive them for not playing as well.
Yeah.
Then the injuries go away. You expect them to pick up again.
And they didn't.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like how it didn't really pick up as you might have expected it to? Do you think that you need a winger who can dribble past players? Is that something that's going to be a big part of the solution? Or
I would say so, yeah. I think that's kind of exactly what Postecoglou wants. Like he wants a 1v1 specialist out on the wing to like take a player on, get to the byline, and then fire like a low cross across the face of the box, which is kind of, we've seen that goal quite a few times.
Yeah, we have.
But it's not something which Kulusevski is naturally fitted for. Like he wants to come inside on his left foot. When he actually looks most dangerous when he goes down to the byline on his right foot, but he just doesn't do it very often. And then Son on the other side, he used to be quite good 1v1, and he does a few games like against when we beat Newcastle 4-1, I think. Son got 2 assists from like just taking Trippier on and tearing him to shreds, but he doesn't do it very often. I don't know.
Doesn't, no.
Maybe he's less confident now because he's maybe not he doesn't have the burst of pace which he used to have.
Yeah, he doesn't quite. He's getting a bit older, Son, I guess. But it's the one a little bit worrying thing about Postecoglou as manager, I guess. The personnel that Tottenham currently have don't perfectly suit his system. So it's like, how much do you change in order to fit Postecoglou's system? Because Kulusevski is a really good example. He's not really the type of winger that Postecoglou wants to play with. No. He does look really good. He's getting better at going onto his right foot. It's something he never used to do before Postecoglou came in. But is that the winger that Postecoglou wants starting for his ideal team? I'm not 100% sure.
No, probably not.
Despite Kulusevski obviously being an immensely talented, immensely young player. I think a winger is something that we will bring in, and it's something that Postecoglou desperately wants. Brendan Johnson is that type of player, but I don't think Brendan Johnson was ever meant to start as many games as he did last season. I think he was meant to be integrated slightly slower than he was. He ended up playing most games for Tottenham and doing relatively well, but I think it was, a little bit more out of necessity than because we needed or wanted him to, sorry.
What's Solomon's profile from a couple of seasons ago. Would he help with that or not?
Well, he would. Yeah, I think he kind of was brought in to be like a backup on the left side for Son. Like he does. He likes taking plays on. He's a pretty good dribbler. But he does like to cut inside, I think.
I can't remember too much of him.
He got injured 2 weeks into the season, and then he was pretty much out the whole entire season. So we haven't seen an awful lot of Solomon. But from the preseason games, I remember watching him play, like when he played against West Ham in Perth, I think.
He looked good.
Yeah, that's
what
I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's where I thought of it.
Yeah. He's like a good dribbler, but he does like to come inside. But I think he's definitely more of a dribbler than Son is probably. Yeah.
He didn't look too great in preseason this year. He's played a couple of games, I believe. I think he started against Hearts. And yeah, he was kind of quite ineffective from that position. Obviously, it is preseason. You can't take too much from those games, but he's certainly not someone who impressed me when I was watching him.
I guess he's probably just come off the back of a real long-term injury as well,
of course,
so it's going to take him a while to...
Finding fitness
Yeah.
as well.
Theo, can you tell the viewers how much you paid to watch that pre-season game against Hearts?
So, Spurs play obviously is £45, $90 a year, and that's not something I'm paying for a preseason match. However, Hearts, I was so desperate to watch some Tottenham that I
4 a.m.
signed up to Hearts TV for $25 just to watch a Hearts commentary Tottenham preseason friendly. Which honestly, at the time, absolutely worth it. I loved every second of the game. We were fantastic. But yeah, the Hearts commentary was throwing me off a bit. I know the Hearts left back is quite good now.
There's a couple of Australians in that Hearts.
There are.
Well, yeah.
One did a really bad challenge on, I think it was Madison. But anyway.
I don't know if you guys saw. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
But I saw Postecoglou kind of saying that Vicario really struggled with the set pieces and
here we go.
Kind of
set pieces. Yeah.
What can I say? In fairness, in terms of shots, quality of shots against, only Manchester United and Burnley conceded worse shots than Spurs. So Spurs were the third worst set piece team defensively, and in an attacking sense, they were also pretty poor.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to be asking is pretty much, we know Ange is a very stubborn my way or the highway manager. And he seemed to blame Vicario for the set pieces rather than seeing it as maybe because they don't have a set piece coach, I think you're telling me.
Yeah.
Do you think that it was a Vicario issue, or is this a weakness of Postecoglou, where he needs to admit maybe he needs to dedicate more time on the training pitch to set pieces?
Well, yeah, like Theo said, I think it was Mason and
Jedinak
doing.
Yeah.
So, I would like to see them bring in someone who's actually qualified to
me
be
too.
an actual set piece coach. And yeah, what was frustrating for me was just hearing him in the press conferences always they would always ask him about the set pieces because it was a glaring issue, and he would always play it down and be like, "No, it's not really what I'm focused on. I'm focused on building foundations for success or whatever, and that's not set pieces and part of that." And it's just it was just so frustrating to hear that.
It was super annoying. And set pieces are more and more becoming an essential part of the game. And if Tottenham don't put more time and effort into them, they're going to miss out on something that a lot of other Premier League clubs are putting time and effort into. They need to spend more time on their set pieces. Vicario isn't very good at defending set pieces. It's not just a Postecoglou issue, it is a Vicario weakness issue as well, I believe. But it's also, it's a weakness that can potentially be overcome with more time on the training ground. It's something that I think they should dedicate more time to. Whether Postecoglou will, you can never tell with this guy. He does, it's his way or the highway, as you said. So,
yeah, Vicario started the season superbly. I thought everyone was kind of really maybe he could get goalkeeper of the season and stuff. And then he kind of got exposed through those set pieces.
It was just kind of that thing. His reflexes, he's a fantastic goalkeeper. That is kind of his one weakness. And it is something that is hopefully solvable. But yeah, it's Yeah, he started the season so well, and as soon as during that Man City game, I think it was, where he's man marked by Rodri every corner, and we didn't have a man in between them either. So the whole game we just let Rodri man mark Vicario, and I think they scored at least one, I think 2 set pieces off that. So
similar against Arsenal.
Yeah, well that's the thing. The team's caught on to the fact that Vicario wasn't able to do this, so they just put their biggest player on him every time.
Yeah.
And it took Spurs like 4 games before they put a player in between them. It was like, surely that's just common sense.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Talking about that with you. But yeah, it seems like Postecoglou really is quite stubborn on that. And he doesn't, I don't know why, like it doesn't have to be his job. Just hire someone else whose job it is to sort that out. Like, it just seems like a crucial part of the game which you're just neglecting. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Can I ask one more question in relation to Spurs?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, looking at City and Arsenal, very control-based sides, a lot slower with how they move the ball compared to Tottenham, or at least a lot more passes. Tottenham's still like possession under Postecoglou, but move the ball a bit quicker. And because they move those 2 fullbacks up quite high into central areas, when there was turnovers, they could get caught out. Do you think, and I think Tottenham ended up being about the 10th best defensively overall. I think they were 3rd best in an offensive sense, based off chances created. Do you guys think that perhaps Spurs need a bit more control in their games and move the ball a bit slower, especially considering how they push those fullbacks up into high central positions, that if there's a turnover when you're moving the ball fast, they can get exposed a bit more?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think traditionally, like teams which are really successful in the Premier League or the Champions League, they do have a bit more control. Like I'm just thinking of Liverpool under Klopp. Like they started off playing quite chaotic football, but then when they kind of calmed it down and controlled it into a more possession-based game, they actually had most of their success.
And then they went chaotic again.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a common theme of last season, where our fullbacks getting caught out, and then the other team on the counter-attack would just ping a ball out to the wings and just run all the way. Like, they have so much space.
Mickey van de Ven saved us countless times on that regard.
Van de Ven's pace was the only thing stopping teams from having like an open goal most of the time. So when he got injured, obviously that was a big problem. And then I think the other issue was Bissouma was just really bad at like breaking up counterattacks.
Yeah, especially towards the second half of the season after he got that red card against Luton Town. He was exceptionally poor, to be honest. And I think part of that will be, I feel like Tottenham are missing a bit of a number 6, someone who can potentially recycle possession a bit better and cover those fullback areas, because there's no time soon those fullbacks are dropping any deeper, I don't think.
No.
In terms of the possession, I don't know if this Tottenham team are ever going to be a patient possession-based side, but they do need to lose some of their like erratic nature for sure. Hopefully that's something that kind of comes with time under Postecoglou when they get more comfortable with his philosophy. They won't be as rushed or as pressed to get the ball into the box, whatever opportunity. Obviously they're never going to be a side quite like Man City. And how successful that can be in the Premier League, I think we're yet to see. I don't think someone like Postecoglou has won the Premier League, and not at least since I've began watching it. So, it's to be decided, I guess.
Quickly on Archie Gray, I know we mentioned him earlier. You think he might be like a starter straight away?
Yeah, I don't think he was bought to be a starter straight away. Watching him in preseason, he was exceptional, like absolutely exceptional. I think he's got more of a chance doing the job Bissouma is supposed to be doing than Bissouma is at this stage. His composure on the ball is incredible. His tackling ability is incredible, and I know we heard this from Leeds fans all across the internet. But watching him is truly the level of maturity he has for his age is incredible. So I think he can slot straight into this Tottenham team potentially, and it might take a few poor Bissouma performances potentially to see that happen. Hopefully Bissouma hits the ground running. He's had an okay preseason, so. But yeah, Archie Gray I think will be a lot more involved with the first team than I thought he would be when we signed him.
Yeah, that's exciting. Might save us having to look for another player in that position if Gray can progress his development sooner than we anticipated. Yeah. I was probably spent too long on Hotspur. So let's move it on to Ipswich. They were second in the championship, got that automatic promotion spot. Kieran McKenna is their manager. He was linked with some big jobs because he's secured now back-to-back promotions from League One and now the championship. They also scored the most goals in the championship last year with 92 goals, playing pretty attacking football. It kind of made me think of like Company and Burnley when they came up and they wanted to play attacking football as well, and it obviously didn't work out.
I think Ipswich is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
So I think, if you think about it, they were also doing this in League One, and then did it again in the championship, going up a whole division, and it worked. And what they do is they use their wing backs. They're crucial to the side. They play fast up the field, get the ball to them. They don't have that much possession. And then the part that's a bit lucky about their game is they'll cut it back to where, I think it's called zone 14, which is pretty much just outside the box, essentially. It's where Rodri gets all of his goals, the Rodri goal.
Yeah.
That's where Ipswich get all their goals. They just kick long ball, wing back, cut it back to the top of the box, goal. So overperformed their expected goals a bit, but the way they're playing is going to be very similar, which is why they could do it in the League One and they could do it in the Championship. Whereas what Burnley were doing was very possession-based. It was like a Man City light doing it with Burnley. You don't have the pieces to make that work.
Yeah.
So I think Ipswich are not going to be in too much trouble. Well, they're going to struggle to stay up, but it's not going to be a Burnley situation where we see them go from 100 points to 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially because they got two Australians, Longo and Burgess, so they'll do us flat proud.
Ipswich, they seem like an exceptionally exciting side coming into the Premier League. I don't think, they're not quite those championship teams like Norwich's and Burnley of a couple of seasons ago as well, where they dominate the championship in a very Premier League winning style way. They can be quite direct when they need to be as well. And that's something that will suit them in the Premier League if they can lean into that kind of a little bit. And they've got good quality players as well. So I can see them, doing well in the Premier League. I can see them staying up for sure. Definitely can't see them sacking Kieran McKenna at any during next season if they are able to play in a similar way that they have been in the Championship. So,
Yeah. Let's move on to Leicester. I feel a bit sorry for them. They lost their manager before the season even started, Enzo. Brought in Steve Cooper, who we were kind of just saying off air that he's a bit of an underwhelming appointment, really. The former Nottingham Forest manager is, and I don't know, he just kind of...
I don't know if underwhelming's the right word.
Maybe not.
I think he's the expected kind of manager. Uninspiring is a better word, yeah. I think it would have been lovely to see Maresca do what he could in the Premier League with Leicester, though I think that's more likely to be another Burnley situation because they were a lot more possession-paced and dominant in the Championship. And it's a shame because, you don't know how well he's going to do at Chelsea. This whole Leicester project now is taking a bit of a different direction, so it would have been nice for him to have stayed there, see what Leicester can do, but I'm not sure how they're going to go this coming season.
I don't feel bad for them. They sacked Ranieri. Any bad luck they have with managers is on them. So
sacking him after winning the league,
it is incredible.
Within 6 months of winning the league.
It is harsh.
They got out of the Champions League group stage and they're like, mate, you're gone.
No, that was insane. Looking forward to the Harry Winks derby.
Yeah,
first game of the season, right?
Yeah, avid Harry Winks fan. I think it'll be fantastic in the Premier League again. To be honest, he was always a Premier League. I think he's always a Premier League quality player. To be honest, I think in the Championship, a lot of Leicester fans thought he was their player of the season. Sorry. And yeah, I think he'll do well in the Premier League for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, Theo and I have debated about Harry Winks since like the dawn of time. But, I was very happy to see the back of him. Not that I think he's a Premier League player. I just don't think he's a top 6 player.
No, I don't think he's top 6
He's a
player.
Champions League final.
He was linked to Man City at one point. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that is crazy. But him at Leicester just makes sense in my head. Like,
I think so.
That's kind of his level in my mind. But yeah, it'll be good to see him playing again. What do we think about Leicester struggling to stay up? Should be comfortable. What do you think?
I think
place them.
They will struggle to stay up, to be honest.
They'll probably struggle.
Yeah.
It is a bit hard to place. It can be with the top finishing championship side, especially now that they've got a different manager. It's completely different.
Yeah, probably be fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to our final team, which is Liverpool.
Getting into them today.
We're doing it, yeah. So I think they're the only team in the Premier League who haven't made a signing yet.
But we are linked to Martin Zubimendi today. Looks
Okay.
like that one
It's going to happen.
is a good chance. Who I didn't know anything about, but then when I watched the Euros, I didn't notice him. When I watched it back and I saw just the highlights to just recap what happened, like rewind. He made a lot of good passes and tackles that were quite crucial. You didn't even notice Rodri went out the team. Statistically, he doesn't look overly impressive, but it's his press resistance, which is why we're linked with him, which is something that Slot rates a lot higher than what Jurgen Klopp did.
Are you optimistic about Liverpool's season?
Optimistic, yes. Do I think we're a better chance of winning the league than last season? No. I think it's a transitional year, as much as I thought last year was going to be as well. It's just Klopp's gone. Lots of changes around the structure of the club everywhere. It's hard to know how they'll go, but I'm excited. I've got some quotes here about short style of play and how it's a bit different to Klopp from some of the players. So Harvey Elliott said, "It's a lot different. It's more about in possession. It's an elegant Dutch style. The players are really excited about certain patterns we're playing. There's a buzz around the team." And Curtis Jones says, "No longer being in a rush to attack," which he thinks suits him a lot more. And we had seen that Liverpool were probably too transitional, and sometimes goals could go against them because of that chaotic nature, which we kind of embraced with Núñez. And I wonder how much of a role Núñez has to play this season.
Yeah.
Also, Schlott was in the training fix. He was saying, kill them with passes, move it. He's very big on players moving. He likes that, a lot of fluidity. In one of the press conferences, someone said, "Oh, you play a 4-2-3-1," and he's like, "No, I don't. It changes all the time. You wouldn't know what I play," kind of thing.
It's that iconic Dutch style that.
Yeah, always moving around. It is a very Dutch thing from Johan Cruyff even. So I don't know how they'll go. I'm excited for Harvey Elliott, though. I think he'll be a big improver. Klopp said that his biggest regret last season was not playing Harvey Elliott enough. And I looked at the Opta stats player comparison who was the most similar to Harvey Elliott. It's only one. The only player that's similar to Bruno Fernandes was him. So hopefully he can be a bit more solid defensively, but he probably won't get the same end product as Bruno. Harvey Elliott also said it was time for him to grow up and really kick on. So he's one to watch for Liverpool. I'm excited to see how they go, but don't expect anything big. If we get top 5, it's a good effort.
Yeah, okay. It seems kind of crazy to say that when they've been so consistent the last, I don't know, decade or really. But I suppose you have to allow for a transitional period.
Yeah,
100%.
different style. Like Schlott is more similar to Klopp than other managers. And there were, not that Klopp was perfect. Liverpool's set pieces weren't very good, defensively especially. I guess you could say it's maybe not as much on Klopp, but what was on Klopp was that transitional stuff. In offense, we scored the most. We had the most expected goals. We're very good at home, and I think that's that chaotic nature when the fans gets the fans behind you. Everyone gets excited, but we're not very good away. And I think that was that chaotic nature that Klopp was a big part of. And we also pressed quite a bit, but from high turnovers, Man City got 13 goals, even though we pressed a lot more. We only got 7 goals. So I think we didn't defend as well as we could have, even though we were playing that. It wasn't just the transition stuff, it was the pressing stuff. I think Schlott can help us out with a bit and maybe fix up the set pieces. So there's room for improvement, but it's hard to see him doing better than Klopp.
If you start the season poorly, how quickly do you think the Liverpool fans are going to turn on him?
Very good question. I don't know. I don't know when the Liverpool fans would turn on him. Klopp did say, embrace him. And we're not going to get Klopp back. It wasn't like we sacked Klopp for him.
Yeah.
So I know Fergie did similar with David Moyes and he only lasted the season. There will be fans that will turn on him quickly, but I'm backing him for the whole year, and I think the club will. I don't know if the fans will. The fans might turn on him, but I'm confident the club will stick with him as long as they finish better than 8th. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any thoughts on Liverpool?
No, not too many. You mentioned Harvey Elliott. He was in moments last season. It was fantastic, and yeah, it'd be nice to see him get not even a bit more time, but be a bit more involved in Liverpool's big moments. I think Slot is obviously a fantastic pick for manager. Tottenham were linked with him before we signed Ange Postecoglou. I think he actively turned us down. So yeah, I think
he duped us. I think he used us to get a new contract.
Oh,
not the first time a Dutch manager's done that to us.
To Tottenham specifically. Yeah.
I would have wanted Postecoglou more than him as well.
I think it will be a transitional year for Liverpool for sure. I think they will probably make top 6 for sure. But yeah, we'll see how they go, I guess.
Yeah, especially with the likes of Kanate and Endo, probably a bit in trouble because they're not as good with the ball at their feet. Probably would more embrace that chaotic nature where Endo will be combative and put in a slide tackle here, challenge there, which will lead to a chance. Whereas now it's going to be a bit more settled, not like Arsenal City, but more than what it was.
Yeah,
and Kanate's also not as good at doing that short, crisp passing. So even Trent's another one who switches long balls. He's not very good with his back to goals we saw with England.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see how he manages all of these players that like Nunes, Kanate, Trent, who are more suited to that
Built
chaotic
Klopp's
style.
Football, yeah.
Klopp's football. But that's not what we're playing, so we'll see.
Yeah, all right. I think we'll leave it there for the previews, and we'll pick it up again next week. Do you have any quick fire questions?
I do.
All right, I've got some as well.
Okay.
So we can
Sorry,
wrap it
guys,
up quick.
I can get any prepared.
No, that's fine.
All right. So the first one's only for you, Ezra.
Okay.
Who was a better coach for Freo City, Theo or Owen?
Owen.
Wow, harsh.
For both of you, do you believe you could run Chelsea better than their owners?
Yes, like 100% yes.
One word.
Sorry. Yes.
I'm gonna say no.
Would Ange Postecoglou like the podcast?
No.
Is Chelsea's pre-season form concerning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Should the Tillies favour a female head coach this time?
I would like that, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
All right, that's it.
Okay, nice. That's the whole point of quickfire is we can't
justify,
elaborate or justify. So yeah, all right. My first one is who will finish higher, Spurs or Liverpool?
Liverpool.
All right. Who's the better striker, Solanke or Tony?
Solanke. Oh,
Tony.
You sticking with Slanky? Mm-hmm. All right. Does losing games in preseason matter?
No.
No.
Cool. Will Spurs win a trophy this season?
No.
Yes.
Will Arnie Slot be the manager of Liverpool in 3 years' time?
Hard one. No.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. I like the optimism.
Just confirm. I don't think so. No.
Yeah. All right. That's
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Theo.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such good fun.
It's great having you on. It's good to have another Tottenham perspective on it. It's not just me.
Especially after Arsenal last week, as was feeling a bit left out.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll be back next week to wrap up with the previews, talk about the other. How many teams we got left? 5 or 6? Yeah, of the 6 teams. Thanks for listening, everyone. Rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. I'm just really struggling with that one. I'll get there one day. Thanks for listening, everyone. Let's catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.